I do not know why the intro there has decided to keep playing as we come on the screen, but nevertheless, good evening all.
Hello.
Connor's gone mental because I can't hear anything. So
He's maybe still got it on his.
it's Connor. This week in Connor has been an absolute farce of a disgrace.
He's our version of VAR.
We've had the VAR show ended up in two parts because Connor jumped on screen twice. His evil twin managed to end the stream. Connor's gone. He's just left it to me and Ross, which is not good because I was on the last minute sub, Ross. So this might be over to you.
That's right. Well, I just go through all my grapes for the day. Yeah.
How are you doing anyway? Well, Connor tries to sort himself out.
Well, apart from the football, Ian, I'm very well, thanks.
Sorry, folks. I am back. I'm back in the room. I know exactly what happened there. It's my fault. What I didn't realise was, you see, because I was doing my preparations before the show, obviously, right, and I had sorted everything out of the stream, and I was checking YouTube to make sure I'd got all the things sorted. What I forgot to do was close that YouTube window. So what was happening there was, as I was talking and playing the intro, I'm then hearing it back on that couple of second delay from YouTube and just getting repeats of myself and repeats of the music. My mistake, but it's all sorted now. As I was about to say, evening and welcome to the Scottish Football Show. It is your final Scottish Football Show for 2024. As you can see, we are in the festive spirit. We've all got the Kimbo jumper on. And in the festive spirit, we have a veritable Christmas feast of football to go over with you. Of course, everybody's favourite, the meat, whatever it is, chicken, turkey, whatever you have. That's the goals that we all have to speak about. The terrific turkey of goals that we have. And of course, as always, accompanied by a gravy of golden opportunities, both taken and missed by all players. And no Scottish footballing weekend nor Christmas dinner would be complete without the always controversial Brussels sprout of Scottish football that is VAR. And with me to go over all of that and bring Yuletide felicitations aplenty, I have Ian. Ian, how are we? And thanks for that brief step in to save my backside there at the start.
Well, that's all right. It's the week you've had. It's just the week you've had. I'm all right, mate. I'm all right. I mean, hopefully there's some pigs and blankets on this Christmas dinner as well, because there's no pigs and blankets, no Christmas. That's as far as I go. I know as from what I do away from this, that I've had many a time where I've had three echoes going on because I've had YouTube open, I've had my phone going, which has got the stream on as well, and Twitch going at the same time, and I don't know what the hell's going on because I can hear me 3 times over, which is never good. It's bad enough I've got to do it once, so I know how that feels, what you've just gone through. But yeah, looking forward to getting into this because my God, there's some stuff to talk about.
And Ross, yourself, how are we?
Yeah, good, thanks. Hope everyone's well. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of great. It's Christmas, but I think we've got a few turkeys in there from VAR yet again. I think the Grinch has flown over Pataudry, so it's going to be an interesting one, as Ian says. But yeah, still looking forward to it.
Well, Ian actually beat me to the punch with this one, folks, because what I was going to say, we are your pigs and blankets, nice and cosy, and we, as the pigs and blankets, are going to take you through everything. So let's begin our, shall we say, Scottish footballing winter wonderland escapades this week with a trip to Pataudry and Aberdeen up against Hibs. A clash between the team who were second in the table at the start of the day and the team who were second bottom of the table at the start of the day. And Ross, we'll start with you. I think it's only fair that we start with your good self. Things started well for Aberdeen, started brightly. Topi Keskinen got Aberdeen up and firing after just 14 minutes. After what was a bright spell in the opening quarter of an hour, certainly controlled and dominated most of the game. He latches himself onto a decent ball through and fires one beyond Jordan Smith. Now, it does look like it may or may not take a slight deflection off Eliuan on its way into the bottom bag, but Keskinen and Aberdeen fans will certainly not care.
No, not at that point. Anyway, no, you're absolutely right. It was a good start. Good ball through to Clarkson. Nice touch, actually, to bring it down. played it first time through for Keskinen, ran onto it. It did take a deflection off the defender, but it's still a nice, it's a nice kind of driven shot into the bottom corner, and we're thinking, we're all good at this point, and and looking in a good space. But obviously, as we know, sort of things did not pan out from there as expected.
No, they certainly did not, Ian. After such a bright start to the game, it took Hibs just 2 minutes to get up the other end of the park and level things up. Route 1 football, Ian. I mean, it's just a punt up the park from the goalkeeper. Something you see hundreds of times a game. Normally dealt with nice and easily. They're usually drama free, but an advert for why attacking players shouldn't give up chasing these things, because Slobodan Rubicic, who will not want to watch this back, has a wild swing at this as it sort of bounces over to him, misses it completely. Martin Boyle, as sharp as attack, gets in there, squares it across for Eli Yuan, and I mean, Eli Yuan applies the finish. Not that he could have missed from there, but tragic defending from an Aberdeen perspective, you have to say.
You say he couldn't have missed, but I've seen Eli Yuan miss some crackers. But look at that. So you got crackers in as well. Hey, that's we got the Christmas going on. But now, if you're the Aberdeen defender with the pace that Boyle's got, you make sure you get out of that ball and you get rid of it. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce his name, so I will get it wrong, but I do believe the Aberdeen fans call him Ruby. He's just got to deal with it. It's bread and butter. As a defender, it's bread and butter. So it's got to be one of those things he deals with. He doesn't. Martin Boyle, like you say, switched on, gets hold of it. Simple pass into Yuhan, who has got all the time in the world to finish it and does so with ease. And Hibs back into a game, which at the start, to be fair, it's only the highlights I've seen because I don't get to see everything down this neck of the woods. Aberdeen did start brightly, and as they scored, you think, well, this is only going to go one way now. It could be 2-3 before half time. But fair play to Hibs, they get straight back into it, which makes it a contest with weather conditions that at that point for them were favourable.
Yes, you'd have to say so. The chat's starting to pick up a little bit. A slow burner on this Sunday night, it has to be said. You need some more engagement, get more people involved. This is what it's about. But nevertheless, evening to Jim Cunningham, evening to the Sniper. AGWTF is also on as well. Good evening. Some of our members letting the side down this evening, it has to be said, folks, but nevertheless. Ross, I mean, if that first goal for Hibs was an example of poor defending, shall we say, from Aberdeen and some defensive issues, the second one will have done nothing for the confidence of Aberdeen's backline either. Again, it's great play from Hibs, and I think they deserve a lot of credit, particularly in this one. Martin Boyle involved again, provides the assist. He gets down the line. There's two Aberdeen defenders in front of him. He manages to dink one back across brilliantly for Nicky Cadden, who's just there at the back post and catches it superbly in the volley, putting it in, which is a great finish, because what you would say is that in those situations it's easy for the ball to get blasted over the crossbar there, and he doesn't do that. He manages to net it. But again, I'm looking at the defending, Ross, and thinking, two Aberdeen defenders there, could one of them not have gone and closed that space down before Boyle crosses it in, and then Nicky Devlin just getting caught too far in front of it to then try and get back and get the header to clear?
Yeah, I mean, it's horrible to watch because, so I don't know if you remember after the Hearts game, I was saying, I'm worried about the Hearts defence. I'm worried about the Aberdeen defence because we've always had a problem with how many defenders we've got, and actually I think I said at the time, Rubicic has kind of been the guy that's held it together, the most experienced sort of central defender that we've got. When he starts making howlers, you really know that maybe the wheels are going to come off. But you're absolutely right. For the one for Martin Boyle to be able to not just get the ball in the box, but kind of get to the line. He's got two. I think he's got Jack McKenzie and somebody else with him. It's kind of that 101, isn't it? Is if it's in the box, and we'll come on to another game where this doesn't happen, but when it's in the box, clear it. Don't try and pass it, clear it. The other thing is, if someone's going down the line, always make sure they don't get the cross in. I mean, these are the sort of key defensive sort of priorities. And the thing is, because once you don't do that and it goes in, you that's it. It's anyone's ball. I feel a bit sorry for Nicky Devlin, because, to be honest, he ended up having to have two men to mark, really, and he had to pick one. So unfortunately, he picked the other Hibs player, and Nicky Cadden has pretty much got a free volley. Great finish. I'm starting to, sort of not like the sight of Nicky Cadden because he keeps scoring against us, but it's a great finish.
It is, Ian, and I want to just touch, if I can, on Nicky Cadden, because he has been, I think, by far and away, maybe besides potentially Martin Boyle, but he's played more games, I think by far and away he's been the best, or one of the best players that Hibs have had this season. I think he's been the best. And I also think what a great bit of business he's turned out to be, because even when they were struggling early on and played poorly, he still, when he was playing, showed moments of brilliance and quality. And again, that finish for me, it's another moment of it. It's a controlled volley, because, as I said to Ross, so easily that could be smashed over the crossbar.
Well, I've already mentioned the fact that the conditions weren't there to help and aid players that much today, but in those conditions, to have a finish like that, to get the technique was brilliant. Gets himself over the ball, as you should do. And I mean, the old adage, and any kids watching, that's what you should be doing when you play. Smashes that in. It was a hell of a finish. But he's a player on form. He's had a decent season. The only thing for Hibs with the window approaching is, can they keep hold of him? I imagine they can at this point. I don't think he's in any rush to leave there, the vein of form he's in. They're shining light in a note, which is, and the season's beginning to pick up. He's the shining light of the season they had to begin with. And if he continues on that form and he drags the others with him, I think Hibs will be just fine. Might even be gunning for your lot, Ross. You never know.
Well, he's going to be key, Ross, for Hibs. You would think, and we'll obviously come on to Hearts later on, but I don't think it'll be lost on anybody. Boxing Day, or Boxing Day evening, I should say, that Edinburgh derby. I mean, firstly, delighted that Sky Sports are actually televising it. I mean, we're in unheard of territory here, Ian, because that's two Edinburgh derbies in a row on the television. But yeah, Ross, Nicky Cadden's going to be a key player for Hibs if they're going to go to Tynecastle and win that game, isn't he?
Oh yes, I mean, I think, and again, I've done a couple of mistake makes. I get a lot wrong, but I kept going on about Hearts and Hibs in terms of when they were second bottom, saying, this is not going to last. I just didn't think it would last. Unfortunately, I didn't quite realise that Aberdeen would be on the back end of the revolt from Hibs. But no, they've got last 5 games, 10 points out of 15. They've gone on a really good run. Probably arguably they are in better form than Hearts still. I think overall, Hearts still seem to be struggling a little bit. Hibs have had some fairly, and that's 2 really good away wins for them, in terms of Motherwell and now at Aberdeen. Hearts still struggling a little bit, but again, they're out of Europe, and I honestly think they will also springboard up the league, and obviously they've had a good result this weekend. So no, it tees up the Edinburgh derby really well. So it's kind of exciting. Well, it's better times for them anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ian, I mean, that obviously wasn't quite the end of it for Hibs. They do get a third. Nectar Triantis, I wonder how many points he's got. He has the ball pinched off him by Nielsen. Yes, sorry, Nectar Triantis pinches the ball off Nielsen, I should say. In the Aberdeen half, it's sloppy play for Aberdeen. It really is. 2-1 down as well, and then that ball kind of passed across into no man's land, and it's very, very loose one once again. And again, this time it's Martin Boyle who goes from provider to goal scorer as he slid in, and he puts a decent finish away into the bottom corner. But again, Ian, firstly, what an afternoon Martin Boyle had, 2 assists and a goal. Clear man of the match performance there. I don't even think there was a debate about it. But another horror show from Aberdeen defensively.
Yeah, I mean, we're coming to a very busy part of the season, and now's not the time for Aberdeen's defence to decide that they'd rather have the Christmas break back than carry on through the Christmas period. But I mean, you can't take anything away from that finish, because when he's broken through, I think I'm like the Aberdeen goalkeeper. I'm thinking he's going to smash this, because that's what he set out to do, and then he's just dinked it into the opposite corner. It was a brilliant finish from a player who has the talent and has the goal. He's got the goal scoring talent of anybody in our league. His antics when he's trying to win penalties and all the rest of it does make him one of my least favourite players, even though he is right below me on this screen tonight. But you take nothing away from that finish. It was a great finish. I mean, despite the defending being awful, it is a great finish from a player who's finding a bit of form at the right time for Hibs as well. It deceives the goalkeeper, and I don't think you can argue with the scoreline either. I know Aberdeen had chances to try and get back in it, but I don't think 3-1 flatters Hibs, for me, from what I saw anyway. Didn't flatter Hibs at all.
Yeah, I mean, Ross, we'll come to you. Lastly on this, where is it going wrong at the moment for Aberdeen? It's 6 games now without a win, 3 draws in there, 3 defeats. A 10-point swing has gone the way of Rangers. That's now seen Rangers jump into second, Aberdeen into third. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't necessarily think people were sitting there going, yeah, Aberdeen are definitely going to be on the march for a title challenge and finish strongly second. But I certainly think, given where they had been going into the Cup semi-final against Celtic, at that point, Aberdeen weren't showing any signs of this type of dip in form. Is that a worry for you?
It is, and I'll tell you what's most worrying is, see when you can see why it's happening. You know, loads of injuries, changes in, I don't know, management or something, then you've got a reason. There's not been that much of a difference. I mean, you know, we've had Papa Goyi out. He's still the top scorer, which is worrying because he's been out for almost 3 months. But that tells you one thing, which is none of the strikers have fully stepped up. We're just not scoring. You know, we're scoring goals, but actually the midfield have been where, you know, the likes of Keskinen coming in, Jamie McGrath, etc. You know, and Dickie Devlin even. You know, these guys have shipped in more than their fair share of goals. So the strikers are letting us down. It's just like, this is where we are, and this is the reality. We're going to have to start focusing a little bit because, you know, I think, you know, yeah, I mean, I expected a drop off, by the way, as well. I knew this would happen because there's not enough differences in the team from last season before to say it was going to be, you know, hugely different. The run of form was a surprise. The run of wins was a major surprise. We've done it before because the last 2 seasons we've won the last 7 games of each season in a row. So we've got this ability to go on these funny little winning streaks. But we also have this ability to have massive dips. So I think I think everybody is worried because we don't know why. We don't know what it is. There's been a couple of injuries, but I think ultimately, if I really wanted to say it, it's just we don't have a strong enough squad. I've always said the defence is the biggest weakness for me. You know, it's still not. We're still we ship goals too much, and I think the last 2 games has highlighted it. You know, drawing with St Johnstone at home, getting hammered off Hibs at home, that is not good home form. So that would be my worry. You know, January can't come quick enough, and honestly, if we don't buy another central defender, I think we are in trouble, believe it or not. You know, and by trouble, I mean we're going to undo all the good work we've done.
Yeah, good idea there, Bob. Stay tuned in 2025. We will endeavour to do something just like that. See, this is a great thing. We're open to suggestions. We're absolutely open to anything you think can make this show better. We are 100% open to that. So get them in, get more suggestions in. And of course, evening to JD, who joins us, and Gaz, who joins us, shall we say, fashionably late. So we can let him away with that. I mean, we're normally late, so it'd be hypocritical of us if we didn't. But if you thought that because we hadn't mentioned it at all in the Aberdeen Hibs game, that VAR had a nice quiet weekend and Willie Collum could just put his feet up, read a book, have a nice cup of tea. Well, the next two games have got something to say about that. We move ourselves up to Dingwall, a very blustery Dingwall, it has to be said. The weather there was the conditions really poor, worse actually conditions than we're at Pittodrie, it has to be said. And it's Ross County against St Mirren. County, Ian, actually have a decent record at home when you think about it. You know, only Aberdeen, Rangers and Celtic have went up there and beat them this season. And you've got to say, I wasn't expecting St Mirren necessarily to take 3 points from this, but as the game goes, initially, not much happened for large spells, and then St Mirren go ahead after Jack Hamilton sort of spilled, shall we say, Greg Kilty's free kick, and then Iacoviti just there to touch it home. Noticeably, Ian Iacoviti didn't celebrate post former Ross County captain.
I'm in the middle of all this. I don't know how to really take it. I think there's a point that depending on who you are, if you've been at a club for 20, like Ali McCoist, for example, he was at Ibrox for 15 odd year and then goes to Kilmarnock. He comes back and scores against Rangers. If he doesn't want to celebrate, I can kind of understand it. Iacoviti, you left Ross County, you were there for a couple of seasons, you've scored. Just celebrate. Christ. End of the day, you're playing for somebody else now. They pay your wages. Just go and celebrate. I get that you want respect and all that, but just go and celebrate. I'd respect you more if you celebrated if you were coming back against me. Because if it was me, I'd be tearing. I'd probably do an Adebayor, to be fair. But but I mean, first off the bat, I will take massive props to both St Mirren and Ross County players for even going out on that pitch and playing, because I'd have just woke up in the morning and probably rung it in and said, nah, I'll swing the lead today. I don't feel well. I got the flu. I've hurt my toe or something like that. Anything to get out of going out and playing and that. So fair play to them for doing it. Made the game a bit scrappy, made it a little bit entertaining at points as well, when the conditions helped with balls across and balls in the air and all that sort of stuff. But a scrappy goal to open it, not the last bit of scrappy play throughout that day. We'll come to it in a bit because VAR is involved in a fair bit of the scrappy play. But
yeah,
like you say, Ross County have got a decent run of form at home, so it's never a gimme going to their place, no matter who you are. And they take the lead through it was a good finish, well controlled. He reacts to it. It's come out to him. He's just hit it, and he's got. Would you expect?
I know the conditions, as we said, weren't great, but would you have expected, as a goalkeeper yourself, even in those conditions, Jack Hamilton to have dealt with the free kick a bit better than he did?
I think the conditions play a massive part. I mean, it's difficult because the ball does bounce just before it gets to him. Slippy surf, a slippy ball. I don't know what his footing's like, but it's one of those. And on a dry day, probably gathers that nice and simple. But on a day like today, that ball's come at him quick, and the conditions haven't helped him. You'd like him to get a hold of it, but it's come out. And Iacoviti's still got a bit of work to do, even at that point, to make sure it goes in. So a poor goal to lose, but from a Ross County point of view, at the moment, you don't care how they come, just as long as they do.
Yeah, absolutely. And JD, thanks very much. I have indeed had not only a haircut, but a nice beard trim and shape as well, just to freshen and tidy things up. Just in time for Christmas, you know. Can't go to Christmas without tidying yourself up a bit, you know. Ross, County, to be fair to them, they were sticking at it. You know, they didn't give up on it by any stretch, and in difficult conditions, as we mentioned, they persevered. And just 29 seconds into the second half, they do get themselves an equaliser from Michi Ifeti. I think that's how you say the name. It's again initially when the ball comes in, Ifeti actually is the one who headers it initially, and then it sort of deflects its way straight back to him. And at the second bite of the cherry, second bite of the cherry, he plops it home, and we're all square again. I think this is good play from County. I think the conditions, obviously, as I say, didn't help St Mirren's bid to defend it. I do think that Ifeti should not, in my opinion, have had enough time and space to get not one but two efforts on goal out of that. That would be a concern for me if I was St Mirren. But as I say, County would have been delighted at that point to get level.
Yeah, I think the thing about the weather is that you can't see it fully and appreciate it on TV exactly just how bad the conditions were. I think it probably was affecting the ball. I think the pace of the ball, as much as maybe even the flight of the ball, was probably throwing the players off a bit, because it was quite funny that both of those goals, the first two goals, were kind of from very close in. At 6-yard box, and normally you're expecting either the keeper or a defender to be there, sort of on top of the player. But it fell to him, sort of broke to him, and to be fair, the thing that I think allowed him to score was he took it first time. He placed it exactly where he wanted to, and with a bit of pace, and it was a really nice finish. So no, it was a good goal. Yeah. And to be fair to them, I have to say, both teams made a lot of effort in those conditions. I thought they put on a pretty good game.
Yeah, I thought given the conditions, I thought they done okay. Iain, okay, let's now dip our toes into the water of refereeing and VAR and all the nonsense that occurs. So, firstly, the first thing to chat about, Scott Tanser finds himself sent off in this one for St Mirren. 2 bookings he received. I think the first one, Iain, I don't think he can have any complaints about the first one. It is a stonewall booking. But my question to you is, on the second booking, which is only 10 minutes into the second half, I must say, first, right, I in full flow at first I thought, oh yeah, he's went in there. Why is he going in there? He's on a booking, that's silly. And I'm ready to write down all my criticisms of the player going, you idiot, what have you done? But then when I looked at it back, I thought, VAR should have, this is the problem with second bookings, that VAR can't intervene. But if it could, you'd think it would have there, because when you see it, but he doesn't make any contact with Denham. He actually sort of loses control of the ball a bit. He slides in to regain control. He does then win the ball. Denham sort of jumps over him. But there's no real contact. And then I think Aidan Denham buys that red card even more by his antics. He's rolling about in the ground as if he's been poleaxed.
Yeah, I mean, Denham sells it. That's what he does. He sells that foul and uses the dark arts, which players will do. And if it's your team that does it, you think, well done for using the dark arts. And if it's against you, you're like cheating, son of a, and all that sort of deal. But first instance, when he's made the tackle, like you, I'm like, yeah, that's that. I don't think you can complain about it. That's definitely a second booking. Then you look at it again, and it's difficult to see any contact at all. So I think he can count himself a little bit unfortunate. I mean, he was absolutely furious with the decision himself. You can see that. But again, though, he's given the referee something to do. He's given the referee a decision to make. And is it in a place where he actually needs to make that kind of challenge? So there's sort of a swings and roundabouts point here, is that it looks worse than it actually is. The opposing player does not help him, which you don't expect him to anyway. And like you say, with VAR not being able to get involved on second bookings, the referee's can only act on what he sees and what he thinks at the time. So he gets the second yellow card and away he goes. But even if VAR could have got intervened on a second yellow card in this game, I'm not entirely sure they would have made the right decision anyway.
Yeah, this is true. We will come on to one of those later on, believe you and me. But I mean, Ross, your take on this? Are we at the stage now where we do need to seriously have a conversation about changing up the rules so that second bookings can be looked at by VAR and overturned if they're deemed to be wrong? Now, listen, does Scott Tanser give the referees something to think about by sort of lunging in to win the ball back? Yes, he does. But we can all see in a replay that he does win the ball. There's no contact with the player. It's not even high either, so it cannot be, for me, a booking in that scenario. Should we be looking to change that?
If VAR was working well, then I absolutely agree. So we've got this problem, don't we, where We need to have confidence in VAR. At the moment, I wouldn't give VAR anything else to worry about. If for some reason they're struggling as it is. But if you think about a second yellow is a red. It means sending somebody off. Sending somebody off totally changes the game. So for me, that's a key decision. So I totally agree. Second yellow, it's as much of a decision as a red, really, isn't it? It is sending somebody off. Why is a second yellow not already covered?
Yeah, sorry, Ross, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but I was just going to add to that as I put it back to you. It's also got the added issue, a second booking, that not only is it a red card and the player's off the park, it's a guaranteed match ban because you can't appeal a second booking. You know, you can appeal a straight red card and that can go overturned, but you can't appeal a second booking. And when it's one like that feels really unjustified, feels really hard done by, you just think, at least if we're not going to allow players to appeal a second booking and teams are going to miss big players for games when they shouldn't, why not allow VAR the ability to have a look at that?
Yeah, I mean, I think in principle, absolutely. Honestly, I think anything that's and again, I hope Willie Collum is now looking at something in terms of the overall of VAR and just and has a look at everything, because we've got to decide on what's a key decision. They've then got to train the guys to know what these key decisions are and when they should get involved and when they don't. And as I say, for me, yeah, 100%. We've got to, anything that sends a player off has got to be treated the same, whether it's with second yellow or a red. But at the moment, I would not give a VAR anything else to have to do until they sort themselves out.
Yeah, honestly, just leave it to Donald to bring things down. I'm getting compliments all night long saying how smart and great I look, and in comes Donald with WTF are you wearing? We're all wearing Christmas jumpers, or we're getting into the festive spirit here on the Scottish Football Show because it's the last one of the year. It's also, as it just so happened to be, the last appearance I'll be making on the Rabble before Christmas because I'm not on between now and Christmas Day. Well, it's not, tell you, I'm not on a live show between now and Christmas Day. There is a recorded show that I'll be doing tomorrow, but I don't believe that'll be live. So we thought we'd bring a bit of festivity to it as it's the last Scottish Football Show of 2024. That's why me, Ross, and Iain are all wearing Christmas jumpers. I will say it was Ross's idea to wear the Christmas jumpers as well. But yes, Iain, if only this was the only issue we had to discuss about the refereeing and VAR tonight and in this game, we'd all be happy. We'd all go, yeah, okay, we'd have grumbles, but it'd be fine. It's not. Because after that happens, we then come to a brace of stonewall penalty kicks that were not given. The first of which being Eamon Brophy. Now, as this ball's in the air, Eamon Brophy is setting himself to collect that ball. And Taylor just absolutely ploughs through the back of him. He just barges right into him. And I mean, honestly, I cannot quite put my finger on why this isn't a penalty kick. The ref should see it in real time. Greg Aitken in VR should certainly see it and send him to the monitor. But Iain, do tell us all why this has not been given as a penalty kick, because it blows my mind. And also, if you could just show Donald your jumper, because he seems to think it's fake.
Hellfire Christmas.
Thank God Iain is wearing trousers.
There's nothing to see down there anyway. That's what she said anyhow. I can't tell you why this isn't a penalty. Now, this screams to me of a referee who has absolutely no confidence in his own ability, who is, do you know what? I'm not going to give that. I'll let VAR do my job, and they'll go and give the penalty. And for some unknown reason, VAR decide, we'll agree with the on-field decision. Let's just play on, shall we? It's cold in this VAR room, in this van, wherever we are, and we'll just get out of Dodge and get straight out of here, because we're not like mucking about. We're not going to be the controversial ones. We're not going to get relegated for a week. I think you might. I have no idea how the referee can't figure that out for himself, and I can't figure out how VAR have decided, no, yeah, all good, carry on. It's a stone. He's not even attempting to play the ball. He sees the ball in the air. You know Brophy's going to take it down on his chest, and he just, whether he's, I mean, the only thing you could say is that he's gone to do it because of the conditions he's slipped. But even then, it's still a foul. So it's a penalty. It should be given. It's not, and I have no idea why not.
It's just so odd. I just Ross, it infuriates me because in an age where we have, and Graham Caldwell, I think, makes a good point on this, right? The referees, as Graham Caldwell says here, the referees have got the assistance of VAR now, right? And you've got VAR officials in there. Greg Aiken, by the way, is one of the only two full-time, proper category professional VAR officials we've got. The others are part-time VAR officials because they're still on the field as well. Greg Aiken doesn't ref on the field, he's full-time VAR. So he really should be the man to get a decision like that correct. But they've got the assistance of VAR, and they're not using it properly when they need to use it. And as Graham said, it just frustrates you so much as a supporter because you actually question your own sanity at times. You actually think, is it me? Am I wrong? Because I'm watching those incidents yesterday, and we'll come on to the second one in a moment, and I'm going, have I misunderstood football? Is there actually a reason why that shouldn't be? I'm trying to find reasons to justify clearly incorrect decisions. That's the world we're in now.
I think it's incredible. I mean, I don't know, and I don't know why it's gone this way quite to the level that it has in terms of even VAR, and I say even VAR with now seems a bit ironic. Even VAR, you would accept would make the odd mistake, right, when it came in. But ultimately, that was not what it came in to do. It came in to eliminate inconsistencies, to assist referees, and get better sound decision making by allowing that fundamental additional check and use of video. What is it we've got now? We've got another layer of refereeing giving us even more confusing, inconsistent decisions. And I'll tell you, the problem will be it affects the game. It costs money. It takes longer. If it's not going to give us the right additional, because it can't just be additional layer, it's got to actually give us something better, then basically it's not worth it, is it? And the teams are going to start saying, what have we got VAR for? So I think they've got a bit of a crisis here. I think Willie Collum, without saying it in his VAR review, is basically, to be quite honest, read between the lines, I think he knows he's got a crisis. Like what you said, Connor, the fact is not enough of these guys are professional. They're not full-time. How are they trained? How are they paid? The whole thing needs looking at, because if you're going to bring it in, these guys are going to have to be competent. So no, it's bad when we know they're going to get the odd thing slightly wrong or whatever. But now we're at the fundamental stage, decisions we don't understand. So I think it's a crisis, and I do think it will need dealt with, because I'll tell you, it's undermining the credibility of our professional league.
Absolutely is, Ian, and it's actually in a weird backwards kind of way, taking away some of the sort of tribalism that we see in terms of, because some of the decisions are so clearly wrong. As Graham Caldwell says here, he's a Buddies fan, and welcome, by the way, Graham. Delighted to have you here. That's exactly what the Scottish Football Show is all about. We want fans of other clubs joining us, so nice to have you. But even he's saying, as a Buddies fan, he's saying he was staggered that they had got away with that. That's how you know decisions are bad, by the way, and consistently when fans of that club actually walk away going, I can't believe that, and they're honest enough to admit it publicly, because that's how you know it. And then flipping that script around, in fairness to Graham and Donald, we've already covered Aberdeen, so we're waiting back about 15-20 minutes. You'll hear Ross's answer to that question.
Well, I was going to say that won't take long.
Graham, Ian, let's flip this round. Another barge to the back. This time, it is St Mirren who are aggrieved by it all, and quite rightly so. Killian Phillips is lining up. It looks like he's about to hit the shot, and Jordan White, again, much like Taylor before him, not playing the ball in the slightest, just runs through Phillips, right through the back of him. You can see the reaction of St Mirren players. They're up in arms wanting a penalty kick. And yet again, for the second time in this match, VAR fails to send the ref to the monitor. Now, what I will say is, again, the ref is a bottle job, because he can see that clearly. He's in a perfect position to see it. There's no bodies in front of him at the time this happens, by the way, because he's positioned himself just sort of left-hand side of the box. He has to see that and give that, in my opinion, before it even gets to VAR. But again, Greg Aiken not giving it. I mean, is there anything in it for you, Ian, that maybe he's not sent him to the monitor because he realised the mistake he made for the first one and just thought, well, that evens it out, then they've both not had one?
With Scottish referees, you never know. That probably did come into the psyche. But again, I mean, I think that before that as well, before we even get to the Jordan White bit, I think that one of the Ross County defenders is holding the St Mirren boy back as well before we get to Jordan White rolling through. I think White has just lost his bearings and he thinks he's actually closer to the player than he is, and he's just trying to roll him like strikers would do in the opposite way around. And he's got it horribly wrong, and he's taking him out, and it's again a penalty. But again, I go back to the point that I made for the previous one for the Ross County not getting a penalty. It's a referee who has no confidence in his own ability, and he's just letting VAR make the decisions for him, and he did it constantly throughout the game. You saw it with the sending off. He had to make that decision himself because there was no other way. He's going to use a second booking, so he's had to make that decision. I think that rattled him, and he's decided, I'm not going to make any more decisions. I'm going to leave it to VAR, and they'll get me out of any scrapes, which they wholly did not. And again, I don't understand how VAR look at it and go, oh, no, all's good here. Nothing to see. Carry on. Let's just get home, please. This is getting on my nerves now. But there's been a lot of comments going through the comments saying that VAR is rubbish. We just need to get shot of it. It's VAR isn't the problem. It's the people that sit behind the monitors looking at VAR that are the problem. Then whatever they've been trained to do, they are not doing it. And they either need to be taken away, retrained, and do it again. Because don't forget, this didn't come in at the start of a season. It came in midway through a season. They got trained to that point in the season. So it's not like they could use the excuse that just got thrown at us. We waited till half a season was over before we brought this in. So, yes, it's frustrating.
The thing is, people are getting so fed up with it now. Not just fans, but I think players, managers, certainly. I mean, there's been some strong comments this weekend from manager. Stevie Robinson was fuming at the end of that game. Even though they actually went on to win the game, which we'll come on to because it's a terrific free kick to win it. But he's fuming at that because he can't understand. You know, he's flabbergasted like we all are. And you see, as you say, he gets a booking because his reaction, which by the way was the reaction of 99.9% of people who watched that incident and seen that the ref wasn't sent to the monitor, just one of sheer exasperation. And then you've got obviously Derek McInnes and Stuart Kettlewell over at Fir Park as well with some very strong words. I mean, they're just getting absolutely sick, fed up. And managers of these types of clubs as well, these are decisions, not just I suppose any club, that if you're struggling, it can cost you your job. I mean, Ross, I'll come to you. As I say, St Mirren do win it. They do win it with a great free kick by Smith or Smythe. I think it's Smith. And what a lovely free kick. Curls one into the breadbasket right in the top pin. And yeah, St Mirren in the end not cost by poor VAR decisions, but despite the fact that was such a great goal and down to 10 men and how well they played to actually get 3 points with 10 men is exceptional. But County will, even though they had a man advantage, will still definitely feel, well, if we'd got that penalty decision and we went 2-1 up earlier, then it would have been a different game. So, I mean, firstly, great free kick, but both managers probably rightly frustrated at the end of the day.
Well, this is it. I mean, the game's about, it's about competition and it's about fair play. And if you get beat, you get beat. And if as long as you feel that it's been based on the performance of the two teams on the day, that's all you can ask for, really. But this is even in situations where you might win the game, you can still feel hard done to. But the problem is it just becomes now more and more of the talking points and more sort of it doesn't. There's no positive in terms of the VAR stuff we're talking about, and that's the kind of the concern. It was a good game of football in bad conditions, as you say. Oisin Smith, I think it's Oisin Smith. I'm probably saying his name wrong as well, but I thought he had a really good game anyway. I thought really, really good game, and his free kick is absolutely superb. he takes it really well, and it's a great way to finish the match, to be fair. It's practically sort of last kick of the game. So we would be here talking about a really good, good game of football if it wasn't for this problem with VAR. So yeah, I despair a little bit about its impact at the moment. I think, every week now another manager is fuming, and rightly so. And we can't have that every week. People are going to end up sort of, having their blood pressure checked and all sorts. So no, we've got to eliminate this. We've got enough, enough sort of anxiety and whatever over the normal course of football. We can't have another layer of controversy. So yeah, let's see how Willie Collum handles this.
Well, yeah, it'll be very interesting to see, and of course we will bring you our very own review of the VAR Review Show exclusively for Rangers Rabble podcast members. So by all means, subscribe, become a member of that. You don't have to be a Rangers fan because there's plenty of content on there for you to sink your teeth into. We, of course, as I say, we at the Scottish Football Show do our VAR Review Show. There's a Rabble Wrestling Show for all you wrestling fans out there, with myself and the man who's just come back in, Iain, at the helm most weeks. And there's going to be some other news shows coming your way as the new year begins. So plenty of reason to do it, whether you're a Rangers fan or you're not. Okay, Iain, let's move to Fir Park. Friday night's game, under the lights of Fir Park. Motherwell wanted this game on the Friday. Stuart Ketwell said that they really pushed for it. They felt, why not, have a showpiece match Friday night under the lights. I think it's a great idea, by the way, personally. I like the fact they've done it for a change. If you do that once or twice a season, great. Dear. But firstly, let's discuss the goals that are scored. Motherwell get the opening goal. It's a free kick from long distance that's sort of flung into the mixer. Kilmarnock at 2 attempts fail to clear the lines here, really. And then Lennon Miller, the man sitting just below you, to the left of you, he then manages to ping one in towards the back post. Dan Casey gets a head on it and heads it sort of down. Kilmarnock goalkeeper does get a hand to it, but sort of just flicks it into the danger zone, and Liam Gordon is there to slot it home for the Steelmen and put them one up. One of those ones, Iain, that frustrates you as a goalkeeper because you hate when you palm it straight into a danger area, into an opponent, and he scores. But from Motherwell's point of view, in a game that I felt lacked a bit of quality up to that point, it was a decent enough goal.
That's a decent enough goal. I mean, I've gone back through it because, like you said, I do play in goal myself. I'm still playing currently, but players don't get the chance to get that close to my goal because it's 5, so they've got an area they're not allowed in. But I've looked at it and I went back. I even slowed down the slow-mo, if you like, as well, to see if the keeper actually does get a touch in it, because it just felt a bit unnatural that he's that palm. It looked to me that he's gone to put a hand out. It's hit the post and gone back out into the middle.
Yeah, I thought it hit the post.
I felt it hit the post, and
the keeper does get a touch. He does get a touch on it. I think there's a fingertip on it as it comes off the post.
But it goes out into the middle of the goal, which is where you don't want it to be. It's meant to go to safety. As a goalkeeper, it's a very fine line between hero and villain, and it's popped out. And again, credit to Gordon. He's got to be there in the right place at the right time to put it away. Gets enough behind it, gets himself over it, puts it in, and they Motherwell take the lead. And if you think the Motherwell keeper had a bad day, you wait till the equaliser goes in. So, again, a game, a lack of quality. I don't think you're gonna. It's a very typical sort of Motherwell killy performance at the minute. They're just fighting for all the points they can get their hands on. They're not the 2 dogged teams, 2 managers that have got a set way of playing. They're going to do that, and it sometimes doesn't give you the most entertaining football. But the goal kind of sparks the game into life a little bit, and then there's a lot more to come from it, and a controversy and another poor goal to come as well.
Yeah, and I mean, Ross, a man you know very well, of course, Derek McInnes. 8 years up in the North East he spent. So he's a man who does pride himself in setting up a sturdy defence. He wouldn't have been happy with what he's seen with his defenders there, because multiple occasions they failed to clear the lines properly. And even the cross from Miller to the back post, nobody tracking the run of Dan Casey to get in at the back as well. So it's one he'll certainly, I imagine, look back on and have a few words about.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, you're right. Kilmarnock are, they're pretty solid most of the time. I know Rangers had a pretty good win over them recently, but in general, they set themselves out well. They're not easy to beat. I think. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the weather was like that night. I don't know whether there's a little bit of blame on the weather again, but it was surprising. I think Motherwell got in quite a few times into the box. It was quite a, they were holding quite a deep line, and you're going to get punished for that eventually. And the best thing about, I think the reason for the goal, I would certainly say, is I give credit to Lennon Miller, because that type of whipped cross. It just went over everybody. So as long as somebody was in, and because Casey, timed his run, as long as someone was coming on in on the back of it, you just need to get that back in the box, really, and you've got a chance. And obviously, it broke away for the goal. So, it was good. But yeah, you're right. Derek McInnes will not be happy. Even though, to be fair, it got better from then on for Kilmarnock. I would say they were much better in the second half.
It did indeed, Ian. You alluded to it. The Kilmarnock equaliser. Liam Polworth, formerly of the Motherwell parish, at one stage in his career, he scores what is his first. I didn't realise it's his first goal in 2 years for Kelly. So it's been a hell of a drought he's been on, has to be said. To level it up again, it's not bad play from Kilmarnock. They get themselves into an area, get in that dangerous position, and then but Polworth, it's a decent effort, but Oxford has to keep that out. He surely has to keep that out, Ian. He gets sort of both hands to it as well, almost, and it just isn't enough. It still finds its way in. I'm sure he will not really want to look back in that one, because I'm sure he'll feel he should have done better.
There's absolutely no excuse for that goal going in. I mean, that goal, he has to do so much better than that. And he has the audacity to sit on the floor and fling his arms up in the air like the defence have let him down. That's the goalkeeper trying to dig himself out of a hole at that point. Sometimes you've just got to put your hands up and go, do you know what? That was me. I should have done much, much better there. My bad. Sorry, guys. I'll make sure that doesn't happen again, or something along those. I know I'm a goalkeeper, and I will whinge at everything that goes on in front of me. If ever you see any audio from the games, because we do actually film our games as well, you can hear me whinging and moaning most of the time. But there's no excuse for that. Sometimes you've just got to look at yourself and go, "Oh, do you know what? I've made a right ricket there," and he has done for that one, because I mean it's a decent enough shot, but it should be bread and butter. He shouldn't be. I think he's gone more for the butter than the bread on that one, and it slipped through his hands.
Yes, it certainly has. And Ross, this is where we now come to the big talking points of this game. Well, I say that, actually, there was one just before the Kilmarnock equaliser that we should mention. Kilmarnock with a very strong penalty claim. Derek McInnes absolutely felt this was a penalty and was not a happy man that Chris Graham wasn't summoned to the monitor. The ball is slid across for Brad Lyons. And Andy Halliday comes barreling in a bit recklessly. Clearly, he stands in Brad Lyons' foot, and then does that thing that players do when they're trying desperately to get themselves out of a hole. As he then jumps up, holds his foot, rolls around as if he's the one that's been stood on, to sell the fact that it was a foul the other way. The referee awards a free kick to Motherwell. But I ask you again, boss, and I feel like a broken record asking this question, but why has VAR not intervened there? Because it's clearly the wrong decision. I mean, that's what you call a clear obvious error, because he thinks Brad Lyons has stood on Andy Halliday's foot. That is not what happened. It's the other way about, and therefore it's a penalty kick.
No, I mean, 100%. And, I think, so for me, I always test things in terms of what do I think at the time, and then what do I think when I see the replay, and is it and do I change my mind at all? I'll be honest, I thought it was a penalty straight away when I saw it the first time on real time. I thought, yeah, he's got caught there. They've both gone in for it. Andy Halliday stuck his foot in front. He's just caught him, and he's tripped Brad Lyons up. And then did his theatrical performance, which also always does always tell you that, doesn't it? When they start rolling around injured.
Listen, I'll tell you what, Ross, bet your money on this because I will give Andy Halliday some credit. He's fairly honest usually after the fact with these things. So I guarantee you tomorrow night when he's on Clyde One Super Scoreboard, he will tell everybody that that should have been a penalty kick because he's not silly. He knows it, but he's absolutely done Brad Lyons up like a kipper here.
And the thing is, what's annoying about it though is, right, we know that happens, and guess what? That's why we got VAR in, so that the referee misses it or the referee's been deceived, by a player. Get VAR to check it, and let's have a look back and see what actually happened. What worries me about this weekend, is if we're getting another problem. This weekend was about not even sending referees to monitors, even getting it wrong after they've sent them to the monitors, bad enough. But they're not even that said, you know what, I think you might want another look at this. So I'm confused. I'm very confused. I thought that was, for me, that was like a 80-90% of a penalty. I'm sort of staggered by it. And again, don't know where VAR was on that one, but they had more to come, as they say.
Iain, are you in agreement? Penalty for you as well?
Oh yeah, all day long penalty. You can kind of make a case for the referee at this point because it all happens a bit quick. Halliday sells it again. Another one who sold it extremely well to get the penalty. Like you say, he'll admit that he's bought himself that one when he goes on to his secondary job tomorrow. But yeah, definitely a penalty all day long. I mean, I've got a question when it comes to VAR before we move on to the controversial issue, because we've employed a guy that's come up from the EPL is it Martin Aitchison, who's come up from the EPL as VAR manager. Is it me, or since Moss left and Aitchison took over, VAR's got a hell of a lot worse? What is he actually doing?
It has absolutely got exponentially worse, you'd have to say. I mean, I think, and again, I really feel for Colin because he is, I think, doing a decent enough job. He's doing his best to be open and honest and transparent and speak to the clubs and doing the VAR review shows to let the fans know and give us more clarity. And that's all great. And he's been very honest as well in his opinions. I haven't necessarily agreed with his view on all of the decisions. I certainly think there was one he said in the last show where there was a handball that was given, that wasn't given for a penalty kick in the review panel that's independent that they set up newly this season came back and said they thought it was and should have been a penalty, but the call went against their recommendation, saying no, I think this was the right call and it wasn't. So, but nonetheless, as you say, Aitchison, God knows what he's doing. Things aren't getting better, and part of the problem has been as well there's been a lot of referees who weren't ready for it who've been bumped up to Category A referees, and they're not there yet. Category VAR officials, that is, and it can't happen. Now, oh God. Now we come to what I think will go down along with the Rangers non-penalty award last week at Hampden, and arguably the two County St Mirren penalties, as the worst refereeing decision I have seen. It's certainly the worst on-field referee decision I think we'll see this season, because this is remarkable. So, the game's going on a little bit. Down the side of the box it was, I think it's the Motherwell box. There's not much in it. Ref blows a whistle. There's a bit of afters between Danny Armstrong and Dan Casey. Danny Armstrong sort of grabs Casey's arm, got hold of it. Casey then turns around, sort of grabs him roughly here, sort of chest height wise. His hand does slide up a little bit to maybe here, but almost just to say, look, get off me. We've seen it 100 million times. Iain, handbags at dawn. It normally ends one of two ways. That is that either the referee just has a word in both their ears and says, listen, calm it down and away you go kind of thing, or they both get a booking, which is fine. That you would accept that, even though I think it might be slightly harsh. But very, very quickly, the referee, Chris Graham, produces a red card. I must admit, Iain, I done much like a Looney Tunes character, a double take when I saw the red card. I think my eyes might have popped out as well because I was astounded at what I was seeing. I couldn't compute in my head what the red card was for because I thought it was something else that happened there that I missed because that can't be for what I've just seen. Nevertheless, it does. VAR obviously agreed with me and 99% of everybody else that maybe that's not a red card. They send Chris Graham to the monitor and you think, well, okay, well, at least VAR's going to do its job for a change. They're going to overturn this. It'll be fine. Incredibly, Chris Graham comes back for the monitor and says, nah, you're off. Now, we spoke a lot about VAR not sending refs to the monitor on this show, Ian. This is an example of the opposite happening. And okay, yeah, refs usually change their mind when they go to the monitor. We always say, look, have a bottle and stand by a decision. Not when it's so egregiously ill. How can you look at the monitor and say, straight red card?
Well, you can't really say. I mean, I would like to see the referee's angle of what he's seen and how he's seen it to make that decision in the first place. Because from the angle he's come at, it looks like he's come in from behind the Motherwell player anyway. Therefore, has he got a full view of it? And he's just seen that hand slip, and that's all he's caught, and he's assumed he's gone for his neck. But again, he's got to about there, so he's not exactly strangling him. And Armstrong, as great a player as he is, if someone puts his arm around his neck, he's going to hit the floor to make the most of it. The Andy Halliday thing that we've already seen, they'll make the most of it. It's gone on and on and on and on. You've seen this before. He doesn't. The two players themselves at this point seem to be having a bit of a laugh and joke about it. It's diffusing itself. And like you said, the ref should just come over and go, right, wrap that. Otherwise, you'll be in the book next time. Or, look, I've got to book you because of what's going on. You've had to go at each other. There's been a little bit of this and that. So there's a booking for each of you. Knock it on the head and let's get on. But to just send him off was ridiculous in itself. And then for VAR to have now gone in and intervened and called him over to the monitor, I think we had to talk about it before we came on. It's the audio from this that we want to hear from this one. So the next VAR review, I want the audio to be in this one as to what is his argument to VAR. Because I would assume that he's made the argument to VAR that he's still going to send him off, and VAR have gone, well, if that's what you want to do, then that's what it's the on-field decision will stand. So, because VAR is not re-reffing a game, if he's adamant that he's seen what he's seen, but we need to know what his argument for sending him off was. And you know you're wrong when Michael Stewart says you're wrong. So, if you're sat on a seat and you're agreeing with Michael Stewart, you know that this one is actually wrong. So
I mean, himself and Robbie Hamilton, their reaction to it live on the television and their commentary was they were as shocked as everybody else. They were sort of having a conversation just in general, but again, they were convinced. What was he going to say? Dan Casey, the confidence of him was he was standing there going, nah, he's going to overturn this. This is clearly that's ridiculous. Not a single Kilmarnock player asking for the red card either. Danny Armstrong doesn't go down. Stuart Kettlewell says, and I totally believe him because even Derek McKinnon said he thought it probably wasn't a red card either. But Kettlewell says that when he's standing there and he can see over the ref's monitor, he's kind of getting the nod for the Kilmarnock bench to say, I know this will be overturned, don't worry about it. That sort of wry smile. Totally believe him. Ross, I'm going to read this to you, right? And then you tell me if you think this applies to this situation, right? This is the IFAB. People who make the rules of football. This is the IFAB violent conduct definition because that's what Dan Casey was sent off for. So the violent conduct definition is an action which is not a challenge for the ball, which uses or attempts to use excessive force or brutality against an opponent, or when a player deliberately strikes someone on the head or face unless the force used is negligible. Now, Casey puts his hand on the chest to kind of shove away. His hand does move up almost accidentally, and there is what I would describe as negligible contact with Danny Armstrong's neck at best. But having read that definition to you, Ross, does that apply to what Dan Casey did? Was it excessive? Was it brutality?
No, and we saw that in other games without even a review. So no, we've got the inconsistency for sure. And just back to your thing, Conor, you said earlier on about the concern of, you start questioning yourself. I mean, we're all questioning our own sanity, right? Which is not exactly where we want to go either. So I'm thinking to myself, is this football? Is this now a non-contact sport? And I didn't get the memo. So the problem is, this is one of the problems for me is VAR's got two things. One is to judge something the referee might have missed. Now, if it's to judge what they've missed, they can do it in slow time, right? They can freeze frame it, do it in slow time, because it's about showing the referee something they haven't seen. Brad Lyons won with Andy Halliday. So you slow it down, you can see that Andy Halliday steps on Brad Lyons' foot, and then he can't, and that's how he falls over, and that would have shown him the penalty. Now, and JD just mentioned in the comments there, which is this is about sort of force and also what happened in terms of the build up to it, because Armstrong actually grabs, if you watch it in normal time, and this is why I'm getting worried about even when the referee goes over to the monitor, and I'm not 100% sure on this, but when I watched what the referee looked at, right, I don't know if you ever want to go back and have a look at it again, but I thought he was only watching it in a speeded up version of it, which totally for me was the wrong thing to do, because actually in real time you can see Danny Armstrong physically pulls him, and that Casey only, as you said, Connor, his hand just slips up, and you can see that in normal time. See when he speeded it, I was just, as I said, it's only the bit that I saw. When he watched it, he was watching it speeded up. You didn't get the sense of Armstrong's pull, but all you saw was this quicker grab towards the neck. And I'm thinking, I hope that's not the only way that he saw it. So I don't know. I think, but as I say, these are things that we're asking, which we're expecting them to know how to handle. So for me, it's inexplicable. And hopefully we need the audio, and we need some further serious action from Willie Collum, I'm afraid.
We do. We absolutely do, Ian. I'll just read a couple of things to you and get your reaction on it. So John McGinn was watching the game live, because of course he was. Not like he had a game to prepare for, but he was having some peace and quiet and watching the game. He put on Twitter that it was the worst decision that he's seen. He also followed that up, I noticed as well, by saying that he turned the game off because he felt he couldn't watch any longer after such a dreadful decision. And to be fair, the refereeing was shocking the whole game. It was so stop-start. I mean, his whistle was the man of the match. It was ridiculous. And then Stuart Kettlewell, and now I think I agree word for word everything he said here, and I just wonder if you do as well, Ian. Stuart Kettlewell said, "It's quite incredible. Him being sent to the monitor suggests he's got it wrong. I've been given the heads up from Kilmarnock's bench that this is going to be overturned, and the ref watches it several times and thinks that he's got it right. I'm concerned for the game in this country. We're deeming that type of thing a red card. We want it to get better. Decisions like that are not moving it forward." Can't disagree with that.
Can't disagree with any of it. Anything at all. He's absolutely right. I mean, you've got a fear for the game. If that is going to be deemed as a red card, then you're going to be having games 7 versus 7 at some point, because that's going to happen every week. And it's not just in Scotland. It happens everywhere. So you don't see that sort of thing happening anywhere else, just in our league. And I think in some cases, like this week, you've seen the Ross County St Mirren game. It was more of a case of a referee who was allowing VAR to make his decisions for him. This is a referee who's gone, right, after what's gone on with VAR, I'm just going to stick to my guns. No matter what, I'm going to stick to my guns. And that's what he's done. And he's effectively ruined the game from a Motherwell perspective. I mean, they managed to sneak away with that point. But if that's going to continue, then the game's just going to get worse and worse and worse. And people are just going to look at Scotland, and you're going to end up putting players off coming here. And we will end up being like a League of Ireland or the Welsh League and that sort of stuff. We'll end up as a proper backwater of football, because these decisions will have a knock-on effect.
Yeah, absolutely. And JD agreeing with your take as well, Ross, about it creating a false sense of pulse when you speed it up. And it does. It really does. Right, okay. Well, the points, the spoils were shared, of course, at the far part. So let's move ourselves and turn our attentions to some of today's matches, Ian. First off, let's start at Tannadice. All eyes were on the Tannadice as Celtic travelled up there to take on Dundee United, looking to extend their lead back to 11 points. They, of course, did not do that. It was not a great game of football, Ian. I felt much like Rangers yesterday. Celtic clearly were suffering the effects of going 120 minutes last weekend. They obviously had a few players out. We do have to say, they were missing Alistair Johnston and Cameron Carter-Vickers as well. through illness. They were both ill. Nicholas Kuhn has got an injury. Please let him stay injured until after January the 2nd. That would be terrific. So there was a few out missing, but they do have a squad depth. Ian, Luke McKeown come into the team today, as did Yang, as did Welsh and Ralston. Now, McKeown's done well for them. Yang, I think, has been okay. Ralston's in and out anyway. He's usually a sub, so it's not like these aren't strong enough guys to be able to go up to Tannadice and pick up 3 points. It just didn't quite gel today. And to be fair to Dundee United, I thought they put in a real solid defensive performance. And in the second half, because the first half I felt they were similar to Dundee yesterday against us, they were too deep almost at times. But the second half, they came out a bit more. They showed some attacking threat themselves, and ultimately good value for the point.
I think overall the dogged defensive display, they threw themselves at everything. The goalkeeper had one of those days where anything that went towards him hit him, which is, you just want days like that, particularly when the bigger clubs come and visit your ground. And it shocked me. I'd never really thought about it before, but it's the first time that Brendan Rodgers has actually been to Tannadice as a manager in Scotland. Didn't realise that. But they looked leggy. Yes, they've got a nice... if you're Dundee United and you're looking at that back four, you're thinking we can get at that today. Because, they've got a big squad to play with, but their defence is really, really weakened when Carter Vickers isn't there. And when you're playing Welsh in there as well, I mean, Welsh he's not there. Their fourth or fifth choice centre back. So if you're Dundee United, you're looking at if we can get a chance, we can get a sniff, we can get at that Celtic defence, which was considerably weakened. Looking at the stats from it, at the end of it, I mean, Celtic had the most opportunities, obviously, as you would expect. And they had 17 shots at goal at one point, but Dundee United only had 2, which both went on target, and they were actually only 1 shot off target away from Celtic at that point. So if you want to take it from a tongue-in-cheek Chris Sutton point of view, maybe Dundee United were a little bit more clinical today than Celtic were for getting their shots on target, because I've heard him wheel that one out a few times. But a game that didn't really have a great deal of things. Celtic had some cracking opportunities in that game as well, which on a different day, a player like Kyogo is going to put away. I think their £11 million man as well had a decent one, which was saved by the goalkeeper. But it was one of those days for Celtic. They had an off day, but Dundee United, credit to them, you've got to do a job to be able to walk away with a point against any team that's got a team like Celtic do. So fair play to them. They stood strong today and battled and battered everything away that Celtic threw at them.
Yeah, no, it certainly did. And I mean, Ross, Dundee United point of view, Jim Goodwin will feel pleased with how well they've adapted to being back in the top flight, you'd have to say. I mean, again, that's now points they managed to pick up against Rangers, obviously, at Ibrox, and against Celtic. I think there was even a draw against Aberdeen, was it, as well, I think, in the second tie. So he'll be delighted, because he'll be looking, thinking, you know what, it's the top 3 teams in the country we've taken points off it, and we're in such good form at Tannadice. And we know Tannadice is a difficult old place to go for a lot of teams. And I thought today they stood up very well, very strong defensively. There was a suggestion, I think, that I know VAR looked at an incident, I think, regarding a challenge from, I think, Hatate, I think it was, from one of the Dundee United midfielders whose name escapes me. That ultimately was just given as a yellow card, which I think, taking my tinted glasses off, was probably just about right, although Hatate has got away with a couple of late, it has to be said. But overall, as I say, Jim Goodwin will be a very, very happy man, and if they keep this form up, surely they're contenders for a European spot.
Well, no, absolutely. I mean, like, Dundee United have come up from the Championship, and probably overall, judge, on that basis, possibly being the highest performing team in the league in terms of expectation versus where they are. And, I have to say, I'm worried about Dundee United, from an Aberdeen perspective, because I feel like they're starting to breathe down our neck, and I never thought I'd be saying that 3 months ago.
Just
that's credit. It is, and I'll tell you, we only just beat them at Pittodrie. We've actually got them over Christmas, Connor, so we're at we're at Tannadice. I think it's on TV, but it might be Premier. But I'm not looking forward to that. I'm going to wait till Kilmarnock and then we're away to Dundee United. So yeah, no, I'm not looking forward to it because they're well organised. You know, they've got the top scorer in the Premier League right now, Sam Dolby. So you know, they've got him up front. You know, they've got some good players. You know, I thought Middleton had a good game. There was other players that, you know, coming through, some younger players in there as well. They just seem to be very well organised. And, you know, to be honest, anyone getting a point off Rangers or Celtic is usually, you know, in any season, the other 10 teams are quite happy with that because it's not easy to play Rangers and Celtic. So I know there's this thing, we had this with the St Johnstone game, you know, 10 men behind the ball. That welcome to football. It's about results. Now, see if they get beat 1-0 there. They could have got beat 4 or 5 if they went to Celtic. You know, you're still lost. But see if you do get a result like that. You know, you have to say it's maybe the right approach. I mean, to Ian's point, you know, it was quite a funny game because Celtic had a lot of, I would say, half chances. You know, they were Dundee United were keeping them to shots outside the box, and particularly in the first half. Lee McCowan had a couple of good chances and Hatate, but excuse me, they couldn't find the range. You know, Dundee United kept them at bay. There wasn't a shot on target until the 75th minute, and it was Dundee United. So there's one for Chris Sutton. Yeah. So you know, so that for me is good football. Might not be good to watch, you know, frustrating. It's good play because they kept them where they needed to, and they're only the second team to get a point off Celtic. So no, fair play to Dundee United. I think sometimes you've got to do it, and as you say, Connor, for them, you know, they're picking up points, and I think they are. I think they're absolutely challenging for Europe this season.
Yeah, they are indeed, Ian. Weirdly, incredibly, 6 minutes of added time was added on at the end of the game. Not sure where they produced 6 minutes from because there was not an awful lot of stoppages that happened other than the subs, but nonetheless, there was a couple of scrappy moments. Dundee United had a corner, which resulted in a bit of a in the box scramble, ended up in a Celtic free kick, I think, for a foul on Schmeichel. But you know, Dundee at least shown even that late on that they were still, you know, willing to have a pop at trying to find a winner in the game. So yeah, happy days for them. Ian, 9-point gap now at the top of the table between Celtic and Rangers. That Old Firm coming up on January 2nd, assuming neither slips up between now and then. A win for Rangers, would it be game on again in terms of the title at 6 points?
That's a slightly unfair question to ask a fellow Rangers fan because I'm not giving up on the league even at the 9 points or the 11 points until it's mathematically gone. It's not. It's still on. But if we get to January the 2nd and it's still the same, or they've slipped up maybe one more time, dropping some more points, and we've managed to get through it, and we get the result against Celtic, then it's definitely game on. And it'd be nice to see how they react again to pressure being on them because it's not something they'd be used to. Because normally, we like last year, for example, we put the pressure on them, but they got the points when it mattered in the Old Firm games. So if we can go off and beat them in an Old Firm game, put that thought in their mind with 2 more to go, how they react to that. But in the short term, I'm not thinking even of January the 2nd yet because we've got 2 hell of a tricky away ties coming up at Paisley and at Motherwell. So hopefully we can get through those and we'll go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're quite right. We do have Paisley and Motherwell to travel to, so that should be fun, as it always is. Of course, as is standard, Celtic get 2 home games against Motherwell and St Johnstone. So there you go. Okay. Next up, we will turn our attentions to the other game from today, Tynecastle, Hearts against St Johnstone. Trying to speed it up a bit because we've got about 10 minutes of airtime left. But a big win for Hearts this one, Ross. I think they needed it, getting themselves off the bottom of the table and having disappointingly dropped out of Europe on Thursday night against the third place team in Moldova, Petrol Club. Very, very poor result for them. They needed something to bounce back, and And they started brightly, Hearts, you have to say. Wilson getting in early on with a chance, rounds the keeper, but just a bit heavy on the touch to take it around the keeper, and just goes a wee bit too wide, and the angle's against him. He's not quite able to squeeze it home. But not too long after that, about 15, 16 minutes in, Hearts get the lead through James Penrice, who, I didn't realise this, but that's his first goal for Hearts. James Penrice, after Forrester, I have to say, whips in a lovely ball. It's a brilliant ball pinged in for the kind of angle it's at as well. And Penrice there with a really decent header to send Hearts in front.
Yeah, they were good. Hearts were very lively early on, as you say. Sort of Wilson, Penrice were very good. And it's funny because I think sometimes you do just enjoy a good goal, don't you? And Forrester's cross is lovely, and that way it's just you just want someone to header, give it an absolute battering of a header, and Penrice is there to do it. It is funny though because he's that's right back crossing into left back for the goal. So I don't know how often that happens. That's quite unusual. But Penrice's header, as I say, for left back and first goal for Hearts, that's a really impressive finish. So yeah, it was very nice one to watch that one.
Yeah, it certainly was, Ian. Hearts then think that they've doubled the lead. Poor James Wilson. That boy, he gets round the keeper, just can't quite squeeze it in. Then he thinks, I've scored, it's 2-0. And the celebrations are cut short as it's ruled offside in the build-up by VAR. I don't even think it was Wilson himself that was offside. I think it might have been Forrester. So he's unlucky, the young man. Then after that comes a bit of controversy, maybe, depends how you see it. St Johnstone get the chance to level things up from the penalty spot after James Penrice, who, by the way, it was his birthday as well. So what a day he had on his birthday, scored and then gives away a penalty. But Penrice, is deemed to have handballed. It's a free kick comes in from St Johnstone. It's then flicked on by Kimpioka, I think it is. And as it's sort of going across the 6-yard box, it does look as if it strikes Penrice in the hand. This question, Ian, comes down to natural positioning of the hand. Is it in a natural position? Is it out a little bit? It looked as if it was just out a bit to me. But VAR decided to send the referee, who was John Beaton, as coincidence would have it, to the monitor, and he decides that penalty kick. Thoughts?
Well, first of all, obviously John Beaton has got a different team on the VAR this week than what he had last week. I'm not going to say whether it was for better or for worse, but they've obviously sent him to the monitor. For me, I don't think there's anything controversial about it. I think the ball's as he's gone. Yes, as the ball's hit off the top of the St Johnstone player, his arm is down, but then as I don't know if it's natural movement, but it's not in a natural position. It's out. It's away from the body. It's a definite penalty. There's no doubt about it. I can understand how John Beaton may not have seen it for a crowd. So VAR, this is VAR showing that VAR works when the right people who know what they're doing are watching, and they've seen it. They've called the ref over to the monitor to have a look. He said, I think you've got this wrong. Come and have a little look. Do you agree? And it didn't take Beaton long to make his decision either. So as soon as he's seen it, and I'll give that to Beaton, that when he does go to the monitor, generally it does not take him a long time to see the mistake he's made and make the decision. It's just getting called to the monitor that seems to be the problem. And he gives the penalty, which was the correct decision for me. And it was St Johnstone's way back into the game.
But Ian, I was sorry, Conor, I was going to say normal service was resumed. I don't know if you saw Michael Stewart's comment. He said he didn't think it was a penalty because you have to run, you have to move your arms up in a motion. So, see, I don't think that's helpful, right? I know he's an ex-Hearts player, but he's also giving a view on these things. But this is the problem: is sometimes we probably are, I don't know. I just think people are sometimes giving opinions when maybe they shouldn't, because it's not impartial enough. And for me, it's a clear penalty as well. I totally agree. But it was just funny that he said that.
He's giving the biomechanics argument again, isn't he? That's what he's doing. Flip it round. I've always said this about any decision. If you're going to take one, flip it around, and if it's against if it's against your team, you're going to have one opinion. But flip it around, so it's going for your team. If that's a St Johnstone player, you know as well as I do, Michael Stewart saying that's a penalty all day long.
Exactly. That's it. Stonewall as well. Yeah.
Yes. Graham Carey steps up, finishes it just 8 minutes into the second half. He'd not long been on the park as well either, Graham Carey. I think he'd come on just about half time, so there was that. My 2 pennies worth on it for what it's worth. I do think it is a penalty kick. I have some sympathy with the argument for why you might not give it. There is a justification you could make if you didn't give it, but I think the fact that you would have to make a justification without it being self-evident is in itself enough to tell you that it is on the balance a penalty kick, because his hand does come out and it stops the momentum of the ball going across the 6-yard box, and actually it takes it straight into Kate Gordon's course, so it ends the attack. Right? So therefore,
exactly. Yeah.
Now, after that, of course, though, Hearts, to be fair to them, didn't let the heads drop, which we've seen them do before in these types of games this season. This time they did get themselves back up for it, and they grabbed the winner. Corner kick taken by who else? James Penrice, also involved in this one. He takes a corner kick. It's sort of headed out, doesn't really beat the first man. It's headed straight back to him for the clearance. He then crosses a second ball into the box, which is also headed out and cleared by a St Johnstone defender, but this one is headed only to the waiting boot of Blair Spittle on the edge of the box, who I think this is a superb finish. He's got a row of bodies in front of him here, Iain, and catches it on a volley or a half volley. I think it is just about a volley because it hasn't quite touched the ground yet when he kicks it. And yeah, fires it in, and that's not a bad way to win a game of football, is it?
It's not. And if you are a Hearts fan, of all the players that's going to fall to, Spittle's the one. He's the one who's got the technique, the confidence, and the ability to do that type of finish. And again, another one for any kids watching, that if you're going to do something like that, that's how you do it. Get yourself over the ball, knee above the ball, hit it, try and keep it low, make the keeper work and all that sort of stuff. An absolutely splendid finish. And if we're going to start putting things in from the suggestion we had about players of the week and all the rest of it, goals of the day, this one, for me, is the goal of the weekend. All ends up. I don't think there's a better finish. Cadden's probably a very, very close second, but this one takes it as goal of the weekend.
Yeah, pick Oyson Smith's free kick, but there you go.
Now this one's better.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, another time, but yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that is moment of the weekend. I totally agree with Ian. Goal of the weekend, that terrific for me. I actually think the star man, believe it or not, I do think it was James Penrice, because I thought his performance today was really good. I know, penalty aside, I just thought he was great. And if we're doing a gaff of the week, it's obviously it's just VAR is the gaff of the week. Although I'm not allowing the Motherwell referee Chris Graham to get away that easily, I'm afraid, because VAR is definitely the gaff of the week. Chris Graham is the gaff of the week for going to that monitor and still sending the man off. The game's ruined, it's done. If those are red cards. But Ross, Hearts, big win for them, much needed, gets them off the bottom of the table. Conversely, it sends St Johnstone plummeting to the bottom of the table. A bit of concern for Simo Valakari, you'd have to say, because they're good at staying around in games for long spells, St Johnstone, Ross, but they're also very good at then losing those same games late on, and that's a real problem I feel that they've had this season.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. I think it's a shame. I think, St Johnstone are difficult to beat, and they are competitive. But, sometimes, teams win by the odd goal. But sometimes teams are in the habit of losing by the odd goal. And they're just unfortunately just not quite able to convert their chances. They're not getting enough points. So yeah, I would be worried about them. I think they'll be now more in a natural kind of, if you like, battle for relegation, probably with Ross County. And I think Hearts out of Europe, disappointing as it was, you can see the talent that they've got. They are going to go up the league. I think they're going to go on a bit of a run. I think they're going in different directions.
Yeah, they certainly are. I am well aware of the time, gentlemen, and we've all got beds to get to for work and such like in the morning. But there is one game for us to quickly tick off the list, Ian. We obviously have spoke about it on the Rabble yesterday in the reaction, so we don't need to do blow by blow or anything. But Rangers against Dundee, big question was how would Rangers respond to the gut punch that was that disappointing defeat in the League Cup final last weekend. And I suppose, I have to say, I didn't watch along, and at first I thought, well, it wasn't really a good performance. Having watched it back, I don't think it was as bad a performance as some people might have made it out to be in terms of, I think there was a clear intent from Rangers. I think, hit the crossbar 4 times. 3 of those are unlucky. One of them is a bad miss because Hamza Egaman should have made it 2-0, and he knows that himself. But and I'm glad it wasn't Dessers that missed it, because there'll be all sorts of inquisitions if he'd missed it. He'd have been getting battered for missing that. Egaman's got a bit more credit in the bank, but a bit wasteful for Rangers. I thought McCausland, I've got to say, I didn't enjoy him when he came on. I thought he's poor. I thought he's, twice he gets in to the box, and twice for me he makes the wrong decision. The first one, skying it over the bar. And listen, I know people can say what on about Dessers, but he's got Dessers literally in the centre of the box. If he cuts that back, the keeper's out of position. It is a tap-in. Even Cyril Dessers probably scores that. And then even the second one he has when he's through, again, I just feel slightly wrong decision making. But Václav Černý did get the goal that won it for us. Rangers capitalising some slack play for Dundee. Great pass for Danilo, it's got to be said, especially on the swivel. That wasn't easy. Černý goes through, takes it by the goalkeeper, and wins the game ultimately for Rangers. Your overall view of yesterday afternoon's performance?
I wasn't on it, but I was in the watch along with you, because I'm always in the chat, keeping an eye out, looking for those fines. But at the time watching it, it was like, back to the old turgid way that we played beforehand and all the rest of it. But you got to look back on it that we had a hell of a week building up to that. the excitement levels for having Spurs in the Europa League, and then obviously the build up to having that lot in on the Sunday as well. That's going to take a hell of a lot out of the players, but it's also going to take a lot out of the fans, because we're expecting to turn up and just steamroller past Dundee, and the excitement's built. But then it comes down to it, and Dundee come with a game plan, sit back, make it difficult. They had 11 men behind the ball for most of it until, second half they got a little bit more adventurous. I'm not as confident as you when you're saying that Dessers would have probably scored a tap in, because I remember Nice and still can't figure out how he missed that.
This is why I said probably, not definitely, but probably. I still think the right decision for Ross McCausland would have been to swear it anyway. And if Dessers misses, then that's not your fault, Ross McCausland.
Slightly, but I'm still blaming Dessers for Egaman hitting the bar because he was in the stadium, so it's his fault. But overall, it was Černý. I think Černý had a fairly decent game looking back at it. I know that a couple of misplaced passes, but he was quite dangerous all day until he was subbed off. And we can put that debate,
can't we? And Černý was not offside; he was clearly onside.
I don't even.
He was also, I think, just inside our half anyway, so he couldn't be offside.
I think he was just inside, and you can see the lean from the Dundee player as well, plays him on. So they can scream all they want. They can go and shout into their pillows so that the morning comes. I don't really care. It was onside. We were made to wait. You can't celebrate a goal if you think it's touch and go these days anyway. So, but overall, the balls that hit the bar a couple of yards lower, we're talking about a Rangers 5, Dundee 0. I thought it was quite comical that the Dundee manager comes out after the game saying that he think that Dundee had done enough to take something from the game and they deserved a point.
That's incredible that he said that. And I think both James McFadden and Neil McCann, I mean, the fact that Faddy says it, we're both of the opinion that Tony Docherty was severely stretching to suggest that, given the amount of chances that we had. And in terms of Dundee, quickly, Iain, on a point of their performance, yeah, they were difficult to break down. I thought the first half they sat very, very deep, offered the sum total, I think, of nothing going forward in the first half. The second half, I think Tony Docherty had told them to maybe be a bit braver, because they did seem to come out a little bit. Obviously, when we scored, they had to take some chances in terms of trying to get an equaliser, and it created spaces, which we didn't make the best use of at times. But other than Simon Murray, who ultimately was offside anyway, but whose effort was cleared by Robin Proper, there wasn't much danger coming forward from Dundee either.
Was that to me or Ross?
I will go to Ross. Poor Ross is sitting in the bottom corner.
I'll defend Dundee a little bit, right? Because honestly, when you go to Ibrox or Parkhead, you think this could be 5 or 6-0, genuinely, right? So we've seen that happen with teams. So see if you're only 1-0 down and you've even got a half chance and you hit it in the Rose Head, that is still like, oh, we might, we could have got away with a draw. So it's not the right actual, evaluation of the game. That's about Dundee saying, we are really proud that we kept it close. But to be honest, I mean, that's because they worked hard and they were well organised. But to be honest, I
understand that, Ross, but is there not also a case of it's as much about how hard they worked as it is about how wasteful Rangers were? I mean, that's a very calm life. You hit the bar 4 times. One of them normally drops in.
No, you're right, and that's the other side, isn't it? Because don't forget, unfortunately, when it's because he's the manager of Dundee, he's wanting to do the Dundee side. But you're absolutely right. I thought actually it was a good Rangers performance, better than some of the others. Listen, I'm going to say it, right. He said that question's come. I'm going to say it. I've done my Santa's list, right, and I've changed it now, and I want a parachute because Aberdeen are in free fall. So there you go. I had that one saved up. So yeah, I'm not gonna. As I say, I'm worried about Aberdeen, but that's it. That's my one joke. But no, I think it's all about positives, and it's all about how you're performing based on where you were and stuff. So for me, it's we talked about it was all doom and gloom at Rangers a couple of months ago. And some people were saying you couldn't compete with Celtic. You should have beaten Celtic in the League Cup final, regardless of the penalty. It was a good game, but you can compete there. And if you're only winning 1-0 now and worry, and having those chances that you've missed and saying, well, actually, it should have been 3 or 4. There was a time when you weren't getting the result. So I see a positive. And what I'll tell you what was interesting was the 4-3-3 formation and even the team was totally different to what Philippe Clement has done. So a couple of months ago, there might only have been Tavernier and maybe Czerny even in that starting 11. So that is how different that starting 11 was against Dundee. So that transition is finally sort of happening now. So I think there's positives. I genuinely think there's positives there. So yeah,
I agree. Iain, just lastly, decent weekend for Rangers. Both Celtic and Aberdeen dropping points in a weekend in which they didn't play each other. Going above Aberdeen out of second, the clawed back a couple of points in Celtic in terms of just a 9-point gap now. Plenty for Philippe Clement and his team to be happy about.
A decent weekend, not a perfect weekend, because obviously a late Dundee United winner would have made it just an absolute perfect weekend and a very good Christmas present going into the big day. But we take what we can get, and to be now considering where we were to where we are now, being ahead of Aberdeen with a game in hand, Ross, as well. Let's not forget that one. So
yes, I know. It's
and to call back something on Celtic going into the new year, it breeds positivity, and the way that we've been playing recently breeds even more positivity. We just hope we can continue it. and luck's on our side for a bit, because not to bemoan it too much, but we have had a horrendous time of it in the last sort of season and a half with injuries. So hopefully we can start to clear that up as well, now that we stole Aberdeen's guru for injuries as well. Hopefully that starts to clear up, and we start to push on through the second half of the season. But only time will tell, and I'm not counting my chickens until May and see what comes then.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, gents, that'll do us. That's a solid shift that we've put in there. As I say, we've all got beds to go to. So thank you very much indeed, Iain, Ross. It's been a pleasure. Ross, of course, we will see you in the new year, as we will be back on the 5th of January. So 2 weeks tonight, so not too long. So you have a lovely Christmas and New Year with you and yours, and to everybody watching, of course. Whilst you may see me and Iain again before Christmas, in terms of the Scottish Football Show, you won't. So on behalf of the Scottish Football Show and everyone associated with it, have a very Merry Christmas to one and all, and we will see you in 2025.